with her Icelandic sweater on.
Yeah.
And there's Darren.
Good evening, Nelson and Darren.
Darren's just about to get off his surfboard. There he is.
There we are.
Hello, everybody.
That's very good timing because we've just hit 8 o'clock. So we'll start because we've got a little bit to get through tonight. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Leisure Services Committee with a special hello and welcome to Mark Rosier and Colin Moon, both from Woodley United Football Club. Welcome to the meeting, both of you. Look forward to hearing what you've got to say a little bit later. Deborah, do we have any apologies?
I haven't received any apologies, no.
You haven't, right, okay. Moving on to item 2, have we got any declarations of interest? No. Right, okay, then we'll move on to item 3, which are the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of November. Now, I hope, well, you've all had the opportunity to read those meetings because they were presented at the full council meeting. Are there any comments or can I proceed to sign those minutes? No.
Sorry, can I just say, I did circulate, I amended the minutes after following the comments made at full council. So, and I have circulated the amended minutes to everybody. So it will be the amended minutes that you'll sign.
Sign.
Thanks.
Yeah, there was only one small amendment on there that I could see.
Yeah.
Right, well, we'll move on to item 4 then. And I'll introduce Mark Rosier, who's give us an update on Woodley United.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I'll just do a bit of share screening. Hopefully you can see that, folks.
It's just loading up. Yep.
All right. Okay. So I think most of you know who I am, but I'm Mark Rosier. I'm the General Manager of Woodley United Football Club. And with me tonight is Colin Moon, who is the club coach. It's 3 years since we last came and gave an update to the Leisure Service Committee. So thank you for the invitation to come along tonight, and we'll let you know what we're up to at the moment. So for those who don't know, we play out of Bournemouth Pavilion, which is on Woodlands Avenue, and probably most of you passed it or seen us there on a Saturday or a Sunday. But sort of just give you a quick update where we're at. So this is the 6th season of the club. For those who have got long memories, the club came about by merging 3 other clubs in Woodley United, Woodley Town, Woodley Hammers and Woodley United Ladies. And we felt it would give a better proposition for youngsters, players, and represent the town better, which we think we can prove we've done. We're an FA Chart Standard Community Club, which is the highest ranking which the FA can give. So it's like a kite mark of excellence for how we provide football, safeguarding, and the standard of coaching we give. And to recognise some of our activity, Get Berkshire Active awarded us their Community Club of the Year for all their sports clubs for 2020, and that was in February last year. And Woking Borough Sports Council did likewise in their last awards of November 2019. So in a way that brings credit to the town. One of our young coaches, a guy by the name of Dylan Purewell, was recognised as an up-and-coming coach, 18, and was awarded at the Berks and Bucks, which is our football association we affiliate to, as being the rising star for 2020 in terms of coaching. So we're giving a pathway for youngsters. So it's not just oldsters like me getting involved in coaching, but we're actually trying to not just provide football in terms of playing, but providing football for those who want to coach. And what's good about Dylan is he's also part of the Asian community. So we're showing that we can embrace other cultures as well. Regular press coverage for those who get the Wokingham today, well now the Wokingham today it's called weekly paper on Thursday. It's regular back page coverage for us. The other sort of in October we had 3 pages of coverage, both with the ladies and the local derby Wokingham, but again it brings us all to the fore. And we even made page 3 of the non-league paper, which is a Sunday paper, which goes national due to the interest of having Gareth Ainsworth, who is the Wycombe Wanderers manager, was also playing for us before his injury. So again, it was raising the profile. It was amazing. Somebody said to me from down in Somerset, blimey, I know where Woodley is. I remember living there years ago. So it should have been amazed that we could get so much coverage. So in terms of football, we've got 39 teams from under 8 all the way through to veterans. It would have been 42 because we had planned to enter 3 under 7s into the local Berkshire Development League this month, but football's been suspended. The ladies take part in the Women's FA Cup and they equalled their best ever performance this year, getting the 3rd qualified round. So we don't just concentrate on football, we've also raised quite a bit of money for various charities, Sport and Mind being one of them. And during the first lockdown, we did quite a bit of work with the food bank based out of the Baptist Church. You may have seen the under 11 girls taking part in the countdown to Christmas. They were number 7. The giveaway there was all their shirts had number 7 on as well, so you couldn't miss it. But again, they thoroughly enjoyed it, and it sort of helped promote the girls' side. Twice weekly preschool up at the 3G pitch, and slowly working on the Football and Woodley project with Deborah. So there's a plan there. But again, I think that one's suffering from lockdown, isn't it, Deborah?
I think it is.
But,
yeah.
But it is on the radar. So that's where we are today. When we last came in January, we sort of said, well, what's next? So the black type is some of the objectives we had, and that was to solidify what we achieved. Well, I think we've done that. We've now got more teams, and certainly people are coming to us. They say it's a club of choice in Woodley. They're recommended from parents and friends. We've now got an under 11 girls team playing. Sadly, COVID impacted our creation of under 9. We want to have another 9 team playing, but we had the numbers, but we couldn't get them back in time to enter a league due to the lack of training space, because as with a lot of places, we were limited to numbers. So they took a back seat. We got them back training. The idea was just doing in November, lockdown 2, got 2 sessions in December, and here we are in lockdown 3. So they've suffered a little bit, but fortunately from the 2 sessions we had, it looks like we can get 4 more players, both under 9 and under 7. We can create 2 small teams going forward. So one of our objectives for this year is to try and encourage a few more girls to come along. But we've got the Women's Euros 2021, so I'm sure the FA will be promoting, so there'll be an opportunity. And history shows that we tend to do well in the warmer months for the girls, and then they become hardened to play. And coming along first time in the winter isn't necessarily appealing to some of them. I don't mean that in a sexist way. We've seen that is how it works. Volunteers, it's an ongoing thing, but fortunately some more parents have come forward. And as I said, we've been able to get some of our teenagers involved in coaching, so under 16s, under 17s, and making that transition, which is also good because it helped them with CVs and some of them want to go into sporting courses. But we always like to see more volunteers, and also to increase attendance at the first team and ladies games. And we've had 3-figure crowds. So the first team play at Rivermore in Tyverst, and there's over 230 at the FA Vars game this year, and the ladies have been on 100 down at Bournemouth Pavilion on a Sunday afternoon. There's quite a good vibe down there. So it definitely raising the profile. So that's where we've been since we last came. Any questions so far? Great. I'd like it if there's no questions. Oh, now I messed it up. So where next? Facilities is probably the biggest challenge we now face, because as the club's growing, we find increased pressure to accommodate our teams. And the next year again, our under sixes will probably be 2 or 3 teams. So one of the questions is, can we get any chance of getting the 3G pitch extended to 9:30? I know there'll be planning permission, but if you don't ask, you don't get. Home venues definitely now needed, because our vets team actually play the home matches in Abingdon, which is a bit of a round trek, but it's just trying to find somewhere that play under floodlights. As I mentioned, first team plays at Rivermore. So ideally, and Keith will know this from years ago, the centre stage pitch for the benefit of the Woodley community, because I know we're talking to Bournemouth School, they'd like to see something for their footballers to play on, which has got floodlights. So it feels like somehow we need to take this forward, and we've actually set up in the first lockdown a subcommittee to try and identify a number of sites, which we have done, and it's now us trying to take it to the next level. We may need your guys' help. Now, some of you may be aware of this, I'm sure Deborah is, and I saw Red on the call, Wokingham Local Football Facilities Plan. It's a plan which was undertaken by the Football Foundation, which is one of the leading charities in sport for football. In December 2019 was the last plan, and for Wokingham, which we come under the Wokingham Borough Council, it's actually ranked 66 out of 67 in terms of deprived facilities, which isn't really a surprise, because obviously my understanding is we're seeing this about the second most affluent, so we're a victim of high cost of living and the affluence in the area. It's been the plan identified Woodley as needing a place, having a 3G. They recognise that Wokingham at Cantley is having a 3G at the moment. Embrook School's got one, Wargrave and Arborfield over at Bowhunt School. They've all got facilities. I understand that Reading Borough Council is currently looking at upgrading Palmer Park facilities and the facilities at Rivermead. So clearly our surrounding areas are doing a lot of work around all weather surfaces, and that's not to decry what you guys have done for the 3G in Woodley or Bournemouth Leisure Centre. It just feels, but clearly we don't want to be squeezed, and there's a lot of benefit. So really for us, it's how do we take the challenge forward to the next level, and probably something to think about offline between us. And what we're saying here, it's not a pitch for Woodley United, it's one for the community, because I think everybody would benefit from it, but clearly the town would also benefit from enhanced status of having a pitch. Now I know something's happening at Wangels, but these are conversations offline, but this is where we see next to go. And basically, just to remind you what our aim is to get everybody in the community to play, develop and grow their football regardless of race, gender or ability. And therefore we can have a community-based football club that's the envy of the footballing world. And I'd like to think that in the 6 years that Woodley United's been here, that the community has been proud of what we've tried to achieve. That's it. Any questions? Stunned silence.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I mean, on behalf of all of us, I'm certain we wish you and the club every success when you can get back into playing matches. Have you any idea how long? I mean, how long you're preparing for?
So the currently all football suspended by the FA due to being national lockdown. With no idea what to expect. I mean, you guys are aware the legislation for lockdown is the 31st of March. That doesn't mean we're going to be in complete lockdown. My understanding is being moved to a tier approach, but the reality is some football might come back, but it'll be very difficult to provide, as it has been all the time, with risk assessments and ensuring that COVID secure. There may be some, but possibly the league season, as we know it, playing each other twice is probably finished, and we've got to look at more creative ways of keeping the players engaged. And our biggest challenge will be how to keep people engaged. And the first time we did lockdown, it was very creative. We had online training sessions, which was picked up by the Wokingham paper, and they ran a back page article interviewing two of the coaches who were driving in the club. But I think what we're finding now is it's dark outside, so people don't want to go outside and do the training, and mums and dads don't want the training indoors and balls hitting furniture. Plus the fact the schools are probably better prepared to do online lessons, so in a way the kids want to get away from a laptop and what have you, so we're trying to think of other ways. And one of the ideas we had with the girls was to have a question and answer session about maybe the girls getting to know each other better, like what's their favourite food, film, get to know the coaches, who the coaches support. So just create that environment of people just talking, because well-being and just knowing people there to talk to is an important aspect. So that is one of the, we're coming from a different angle, rather than just say, oh, go and do some training and practice by yourself. Just sit down and just have a chat on Zoom, 7 or 8 of you, or go into breakout rooms and just have a little chat about what you've been up to. So we're trying to do that in a safe environment, and of course, obviously from a welfare environment as well. So we need one of the parents to be involved to help support that. So yeah, we don't know. Plenty of challenges to get back, but
just I'd like to, if I could add one. Thanks for that, Mark. This was great. Thanks for the presentation and all the work you put on it. The other bit that we're looking to do is, clearly each year we do ordinarily in the late spring, early summer, we would put on a club day, a presentation day, which would involve presenting all the trophies to every single one of our players, and make a big event of that. So subject to the rules and what they may be in the early summer, we're looking to really make that a celebration event, and obviously we'll publicise that very hard when we get to that point. So if we, subject to the rules that might be around at that time, we're really looking to make a big event, use that to bond everyone even stronger, and celebrate everything that they have done, and really look forward to the season coming. The one thing I was concerned about as chairman from the outset of the first lockdown was that there was a danger that we would lose our club identity, and that feeling of we're all in it together, and with the volunteer energy and things like that. Actually, the thing is completely spun the other way. It's been quite remarkable what our members have done throughout the lockdowns, and what they've continued to do, and that involved a lot of community link-up projects as well. So yeah, it's actually, in a way, it's brought us together stronger, I would say, in the face of the adversity. So it's very encouraging.
Yeah, well, thanks very much indeed for that. I hope restrictions are lifted in time for the day, and I'm sure many of us will actually come along to support you on that day.
You'd be more than welcome.
You'll be more than welcome.
Thank you.
Can I ask
Yeah.
just before we finish this segment, can I ask a question, please? I don't know if that's been, I
Yes,
did put my hand up.
Councillor Sanjari.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much for that presentation. Can I ask, I don't know if I missed it, I'm sorry, who is measuring the provision? You said that we are 66 out of 67. Who's measuring the provision? And is that just on 3G pitch provision, or is that football in general? Second question, what can we do to encourage girls in particular? Because that tends to be an underrepresented group in football, and it's quite it's one of the activities that's quite affordable. Really support your awareness for mental health and well-being, and during the lockdown, that's something that I've noticed with my own students. I teach in a secondary school, and with my own children, the thing that they don't realise what sort of interacting with other people their age gives to them, that sort of daily interactions. That's really good. But also in particular, you said that, especially for girls, there's been a lot of focus on boys and men and mental health in particular. And we know that sport is a brilliant way to address some of these challenges are you doing anything around that for boys and young men who continue sadly to be more at risk of suicide than anything else? Thank you.
Well, God, there's a lot of questions in there. So the first one around the
Sorry.
no, that's all right. So if I forget one, shout at me, please. So the first one around the provision, I mean, a third party was commissioned by the FA and Football Foundation to investigate what's needed in the various local authorities. So that data was collected by them in what appears in the final report, which is in the public domain. So I can't tell you what went into it, how that figure was arrived. It was just used as part of the ranking. So my understanding is to help identify the urgency to get some projects in. And it was identified that Woodley is an area which does need provision for a full-scale 3G pitch. But the challenge they had was to find the location. So I can't give any more information other than the third-party research came up with those rankings. Girls football is one of our aims to grow, and it's also one of our frustrations in trying to make it grow. We've tried a number of initiatives which for various reasons don't seem to come forward. We're not helped in this area by in the same way as other areas. And I was talking to somebody in Sussex last night, and they actually have a project designed to help try and raise awareness of girls football in schools, and her role was one of the team of 3 who do it. We don't seem to have anything like that in Woodley, even though we've tried engaging with the schools. It doesn't seem to come to much fruition, and the FA today have issued their report saying they want access to girls. So anything anybody can do to help us to get into schools will be great. What we tend to find, and probably isn't the right time at the moment, they've got enough on their plates trying to just do the curriculum in terms of schooling the children due to COVID. But we've offered to sort of say, can we get some of the teachers on level 1 courses so they've got a bit more understanding? Could the teachers then, and we know this happens in Twyford, one of the Twyford schools, one of the teachers there had 2 daughters. So she thought, let's take the course and then get involved with Twyford Comets. So therefore the teachers are building up their level of knowledge in the school and also taking it externally.
I'm just thinking, because I teach in a secondary school.
Which school do you teach at, can I ask, please?
Embrook.
Right.
And my daughter played football as well for a local team. I think perhaps sort of anything that starts in primary school, really, because that's where my daughter picked it up. And correct. I'm sure that if we'd waited until she was in secondary school, it wouldn't. So I'm wondering if and again, this is just thinking out loud, if we could have the young people in secondary school doing the course for coaching along with their teachers, and then maybe we can kind of do some kind of collaborations with the local primary schools where we have that kind of exchange where the secondary school girls are going into the primary schools to teach them. And it could be, I don't know the logistics of that. I don't know if that's possible or...
Well, it sounds a cracking idea. As with everything, it probably needs to be taken offline and have a chat about how to make it work, because it will need representatives of all the schools together and how it fits in with their curriculum. I'm all for that. Sorry, Colin.
Yeah, and the other added benefit to that is you do find with the FA that they will subsidise often to free coaching training for women and girls. So if there are secondary school girls that are looking to do their level 1, then where that cost would normally be £160 to £200 to do the course, this frequently offers of heavily discounted, if not free, courses specifically designed for the girls, and that would go for the refereeing as well. So that it's a great idea. Yeah, it's certainly one we'd like to run with. So yeah, it'd be good to have the support on that.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe we can talk afterwards about it, like you said, offline.
Yeah, I think so. What I was going to say also is our girls section, the under 11s and the under 9s, we actually have 3 of our lady players involved in that, so they act as role models. So So yeah, sorry, there's one more question about the well-being of the males and the boys. So as part of the lockdown, the managers are all required to check in with all their teams on a regular basis, so at least once a week. So most of them have got WhatsApp groups. Obviously, we have to be mindful for the younger ones around safeguarding. I'm regularly talking to the managers in return, and I ask them for any issues regarding it. So we have got that contact going. Is it good? It feels like it is. Could it be better? Everything could be better, but they're not just jettisoned and left out there and wait to come back. But there is regular contact. And we had a managers meeting a week ago Monday, and they were talking about what can we do to keep them engaged. And we got a second one on Thursday night around some ideas. And how the club's working is that we're getting the managers to cross-share ideas. So it's not my idea, and I'm not going to tell Colin because he's a different team in the club. We're trying to not only come forward with positive ideas, but overcome difficulties. So we are mindful of talking to all the players. And I say it's not just the youngsters, it's the male players in the club as well. And try and set them challenges. I know sort of the men's teams, they set themselves challenges. Can they do so many miles a day or a week? So there's a little bit of competition going on, so they don't just drop off. So yeah, so our managers are active.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, some of our fundraising activity in the summer that was linking to mental health charity, wasn't it, Mark? Was that right?
The Sport in Mind.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, Sport in Mind. The Sunday team, they did a virtual marathon with Woodley Saints to see how many miles they could run in a week, and money was being raised. So yes.
Right. Okay. Sorry, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mark and Colin.
Councillor Baker,
Keith, you had a question?
Yeah. I did have my hand up, so I'm not sure if that mechanism's working or not. Yeah, there are two things really. The 9:30 extension is something I've supported for a long time, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
But it needs a formal request from Woodley United in, and I would suggest probably that formal request comes to this committee to decide what the town council's view is. And if the view is it's positive, then clearly it's going to be the town council that puts in the planning application for variation of that.
What's needed? Just a 2-line, or is there a structure we have to go through?
I'm looking at Deborah at the moment. 2-liner really, isn't it? It's not, doesn't need anything major.
I think if it had a bit of explanation about why, and also I wondered if perhaps if it was you focused on the summer rather than winter. I don't know, but maybe we could talk to somebody about it. Kevin, I don't know.
We'll take it offline. Maybe we'll catch up and sort of work what the wording looks like. If it's sort of like an appetite, it's an idea. We're happy to put it forward, but let's understand what the wording looks like. And yeah,
because it's never going to happen if we just keep talking about it.
Yeah, that's what I want to make happen. Yeah, but when I spoke to Ed a couple of years ago, we were all conscious that's a great idea, but let's not upset the neighbours too soon because I just put the lights in. But now it's settled down.
No, they've been there for a few years now.
That's what I was thinking. So the timing feels a bit better now.
And the second one is, and I'm totally aware of the time. The second one really is, you're right, Wangels is putting a planning application in for floodlights and a 3G pitch. And we're seeing it across all schools. From our perspective, I'm not sure how we could help you. And again, it's an offline conversation because I'm not sure where we would put another floodlit pitch. Woodford Park is obviously the main area, but I don't think there's much space in there. But that's an offline one. But certainly get that request in for the 9:30.
Yeah, that'll be a great help.
It might not work.
I'm not. I accept that, but if we don't ask, we don't get.
Thank you.
Well, once again, thanks very much indeed, Mark and Colin, for coming along this evening. It's been very interesting.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Right,
Chairman, sorry to interrupt. Can I just let everybody know Zoom seems to have done an upgrade which is not much of an upgrade because I can't lower any hands. So if everyone can be mindful and lower their own hand after they've spoken, that'd be really helpful because it won't let me.
Okay, thank you. Right, let's move on to item 5 on the agenda, just around the corner. And Sam, I can see you there. If you would care to give your report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, happy New Year to everyone.
And to you.
Yeah, there's not much to add, actually. Well, there's very little to add to the report. It's just, in a nutshell, it continues to be quiet, and it's got quieter. Even still after Christmas, it get even more quieter. The biggest place, which is really good on the council side, actually, is that the skate park is really well used. The downside of that at the present moment, they don't always keep their distance apart, but I suppose they're passing each other at speed. So, but it is a success, but even that has fallen off a little bit. Even the pre-sales got quiet. Occasionally you would see people eating their chips. I was normally 2, maybe 3 people sitting eating their chips on their pagoda. So that's quiet. The South Lake shops area has got quieter as well, although that tends to be the place where older boys meet young men. And as we've seen on Friday night there, they're not always Woodley young people. They're from outside Woodley. And I hadn't seen them before, but the New Youth Jack, because of the other detached youth work teams across the area. So I didn't know them, but they weren't Woodley, and they were there. So it seems to be, I think I said this last time, it seems to be a meeting place for people either heading to or coming back from Solly Jewel. So it seems to be a drop-off point. But it's got quiet. It's got really quiet. So yeah, what we see is, I'm sure you've seen it yourselves. Actually, there's quite a few these electric sort of battery-operated scooters. There's quite a few of them around, but the majority of time you'll see one person, maybe sometimes 2, either on scooters or on bikes, and they're heading somewhere, and they're just transit, so they're either heading home or heading to somebody's house, and that's, yeah. So that's about it, actually.
Right. Well, thank you. Has anyone? Kay, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to tell Sam that the car park at the South Lake supermarket has got busier the last few days, and there have been quite a considerable amount of young people, or I don't know how young they are, but they have been on their motorbikes and mopeds late at night. I'm sort of saying late at night, but from sort of 9:30 onwards, they're being very bad. So I just thought you ought to know. Yeah,
there was 3 there on Friday night for a while. It had been a wee bit quieter over Christmas, but as I said before, that is one of the main areas that the would congregate. But they're older; they're actually college.
Yes.
College age.
Yes, unfortunately they are, but there are a considerable amount of them. The last night and the night before, they were definitely there.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Councillor Doyle, you have your hand up. Councillor Doyle.
Hi there. I notice in your report, Sam, that you keep mentioning these family visits and food deliveries.
Yeah.
My first question is this seen as something that the contract that is provided by Woodley Town Council, is this seen as something that you do within that contract?
It doesn't actually specifically say in the contract for us to deliver food, but it's a mechanism that we have so that we can, the ones that we have there are families where there's young people in it, so we can have a quick catch up on the doorstep. But it's not specifically mentioned in the contract, and if you, yeah.
For what purpose? Just to deliver food to the family, or
no, they're in need.
To look after the well-being of young people within the family?
Yeah.
Or?
There are families that over the time we have helped out over a long period of time, and it just helps them out with extra food, just helps them out.
Right. Can I just ask, where does the food come from?
We, over this last 2 years, we have worked really hard and really closely with Breaks at Sutton Seeds. So they have got an innovative kitchen, which they produce. Well, they did, and they're like the football. They're opening and closing and opening and closing. So they have 12 master chefs who make menus for different places like the Royal Barracks and holiday parks and stuff like that, and they come in and sample. But the problem is they buy in bulk, and it's all frozen. So they might only use 2 or 3 sandwiches, or 2 or 3 loaves, 2 or 3 slices out of a loaf of bread, which is out of a box of bread, for example. So we have, over about 2.5 years ago, we had the opportunity to start doing a project with them. So we collect. At the start of the first lockdown, they had tremendous amount of surplus. And again, on this lockdown, they had tremendous amount of surplus, not only frozen food, but fresh food, like vegetables and fruit and stuff like that. So for example, the first delivery we took, it was 7 pallets of food. And we just couldn't do that. We couldn't handle that at Rehoboth at the time. So we work along with Norris Church in Wokingham, and they have a system there, and they work along with the food bank in Wokingham. So now the food that comes from Breaks actually goes straight to Norris, and they look after it, and they put up the parcels and everything like that. And then they also get food from different supermarkets and stuff at the end of the day.
Right, thank you.
Right. Councillor Heap, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. First of all, an update. Last year, a year ago, there was mention of the Jack House. I wondered if there's been any changes relating to that. And a general comment, there seems to be similar activity this year to a year ago. Not great, but it still seems to be worth your while doing you've asked for a guidance on how we should proceed over the next few months. I would think carry on the good work personally. So that's really the query I had. And then a general one for the chairman, but that can wait till after you've responded.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the house, we've still got that, and the same young family is still in the house, and so that's just as it was this time last year.
Right. Thank you.
That's a single mum with 2 young children.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Good. And just general, as we're on this kind of subject, I see there hasn't been a community youth partnership yet. Last year we were looking at the minutes. Do we know when the next meeting will be?
Deborah's sort of put in a special one. Well, I don't know if it's special.
Do you want me to explain?
Yeah, but there's one coming up at the end of this month.
Yes, we've changed. There was one due, I think it was on the 5th or the 6th of January, but I couldn't get organised in time to arrange somebody to facilitate us talking about the service level agreement and how we were going to look at that in terms of how young people are experiencing the world at the moment. So that meeting on the 26th of January is an opportunity. It's going to be facilitated by Chris Moore, who helped us with the a tender that obviously now needs updating, I think, in the light of what's been happening for young people over the last year or so. So, and that'll report back to this meeting.
Thank you.
Well, actually, I'll probably report back to Strategy and Resources more, because it is the service level agreement, thinking about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 6 then. Thank you, Sam, for that. You're free to go if you wish.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Right, moving on to item 6, budgetary control, which is on page 4. Deborah, perhaps you could run through this.
Yes, I can do. Very briefly, if you look at the expenditure on page 4, you can see that at this point we're well under, or sufficiently under, the budget that was initially allocated to the different areas and facilities. I think that all the teams have worked hard to not spend money. So that's reflected in there. And of course, things like, well, not water, actually. Water seems to be the same expense as it was last year, which is incredible, seeing as hardly anybody's using any water in our buildings. But things like lighting and heating, and just cleaning products, cleaning itself. We've adjusted the cleaning contracts at both the leisure centre and at the Oakwood Centre. So we've just been trying to not spend anything that we don't have to spend.
Right, thank you. Well, this is really to note that report.
Do you want me to say something about the income, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it wouldn't be a bad
just
idea,
to say that what I've identified for everybody is how much of the income that's listed under actual income, as at the 31st of December, is furlough. So you can see that in terms of leisure services, there's nearly £100,000 worth of furlough there, and I have to say it's an excellent scheme in the sense that it means that we've been able to keep people even though they haven't been able to work, and I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 7, which is Woodford Park Leisure Centre, Sports Development and Activities. Page 6. Ed, I believe you want to give this report.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Unfortunately, it's another short report from me because, well, most of my reports seem to relate around closure and depressing news these days. So we were open for a very short time between lockdown 2 and lockdown 3. And to be honest, this time round, a lot of our time was spent kind of digging through various restrictions for different categories of booking and activity. And by the time we'd kind of got everything back and everyone knew what they were doing, we were moved into tier 3, I think, for what was about 2 days. And then we were put straight into tier 4 and pretty much closed. So the leisure centre was planned to close over Christmas anyway, so that didn't cause too much disruption. And obviously now we're completely closed with absolutely no activity whatsoever. I thought it might be quite helpful to put a little diagram there so that you can kind of see in a general sense what's allowed and what's not allowed in each tier. Now we're fully expecting that when we are allowed to reopen, that we're kind of going to work down the tiers and go back into tier 4 and then work into tier 3 and so on and so forth. There's obviously no time scale for that. But as you can see, when we go back initially in tier 4, there still won't be much activity. I don't know, I think Mark's actually signed off the meeting now, but predominantly the only thing we'll really have when we go into tier 4 is under 18 football training on the 3G pitch. However, these restrictions have changed frequently, and there are always exceptions. So even though the table kind of shows you, again, pretty generically what can and can't happen, There are different activities that seem to be able to kind of still continue under different rules and regulations. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me and I'll do my best to answer. But the short story is that every single activity is different. A bit more positive news. I did mention it in my last report that we're working with the First Days Children's Charity. That drop-off scheme worked really, really well. We actually completely filled our back office with donations. So it was really impressive, and the charity were really grateful, and they posted a nice video actually on their social media platform. So if anyone wants to, after the meeting, go and have a look, I'd recommend it, because it does kind of explain how donations help people. And during lockdown too, which is kind of predominantly when we offered that, it was really positive to see kind of such a strong response from the community. So there is some good news, I suppose. And I know that Mark's not here, but just lastly, I'd like to add that the idea of extending 3G pitch hours is a beneficial one for the council. The pitch in the evenings, particularly in the winter months, is fully booked every day of the week, Monday to Friday, from 6 till 9, and 9 o'clock is when it closes. I will work with Mark and the other clubs just to kind of put something together, and then I'll probably come back to you, Kevin, with that, just so you can take a look, and obviously we'll take it from there and hopefully have that ready for the next meeting. I know that might take some time, but I think not just Woodley United, but the other clubs will be keen to be involved in that as well.
Thank you. Keith, you've got your hand up.
Yes, this will be pretty short. I just want to have recorded our thanks to Ed, who's had probably one of the most difficult jobs and tasks within our officer rank, apart from Deborah, in that, he's got the most difficult balancing act to do, and it is a primary income generator for us, which we've in essence lost 60%, 70% of that. But Ed is stuck in there and he keeps coming up with these great ideas. And I just really think I would like to record our thanks to Ed for all the work he's done and all the work he's going to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to second that as well, Keith. Ed, you really have done a magnificent job during this lockdown and throughout the year. Right, we'll move on to item 8, which is the Parks and Buildings. On page 7, Kevin, did you want to give that report?
Yeah, thank you. Mine's pretty brief as well, unfortunately, but I'll rattle through it. With Park Leisure Centre, Ed's covered that. Basically, it remains closed. We are using the opportunity to carry out some works while there's no one in there. There are a few things with the heating system still outstanding and within budget. So we're getting on with those. The parks have been really well used. I think they really shows their worth when something like this happens, and people rely on them for their sanity, I think, to some extent, and the grounds team have been continuing to keep those up together. The Friends group have carried on regardless, as they have throughout, maintaining the beds, and also they continue to be a helpful bit of intelligence for us in terms of reporting stuff that they see when they're out in the park. So that's really helpful. The allotments have been really busy. We've still got a big waiting list there. It does come with its issues as well. We've got a lot of tenants there now, and they're spending a lot of time up there, and that's a lot of people in a small space, not in terms of social distancing, just in terms of annoying each other generally. But it is working well, and we've changed a few things, had to change a few things this year about how we do the agreements, so that they're not duplicate copies and people coming into the office and all those things we can't do anyway. And I think it's enabled us to streamline that process for future years. So we've learned a few things there and changed how we're going to be doing that going forwards. We've had a lot of payments as well made electronically, and sort of moving away from perhaps the old way of relying on people coming in with an envelope of cash. But that's working quite well. We have provided opportunities for people to do that. We can't right now at the moment, but we were, when restrictions allowed, we were running sessions for people to come in and pay in that way so that we can kind of cover everybody and give everyone a chance. What we've said at the moment is, because you can't come in and pay in that way, if you can't do it electronically or whatever, we're not going to jump on you. You know, things will ease up. We know where people live, so to speak. We'll contact them nicely when we come out of this and we've got an opportunity to.
Yeah.
The maintenance depot, we had a complete power failure there, which is pretty frustrating. The street lights are out down there. There's a few columns just down by the back gate towards the Garden of Remembrance area. What we found from investigation from Sun Electric and our own contractors was that it is likely, or it is, a cable fault under the ground, and that's not easy to pinpoint because that supply cable comes from the leisure centre and makes its way down there, I believe, right across the middle of the 3G pitch. And given its age as well, the information we've had is that that's entirely likely that that's what's happened. We've had Southern Electric out to look at that and provide us with some options. We came up with a plan which involves taking a brand new feed straight from the substation, which sits behind the houses in Haddon Drive, right by the tennis courts, and means we can avoid the leisure centre electrics completely, run a new cable right the way along, trench it along the side of the 3G pitch down to the yard, and have a new metered supply which will be fit for purpose, and we won't have any problems with. And I think importantly, it won't be running from the leisure centre system, which has got its own issues, which we're looking at as a project for next year. We have had that costed now, and we'll be asking full council to allocate some funding for that, hopefully from SIL funding. There's a couple of other options there to get that bit of work done and get power back to the yard. Woodford Park play area, we went through a tendering process in the run-up up to Christmas for the new play area out the back of the Oakwood Centre. I'm currently having an initial look through those. There's a lot of information and in different formats, and trying to work out how best, frankly, to move that forward in terms of consultation and getting that information out to the committee, to members, and how we can engage the public in that, because there is a lot of information. It looks really good. The ones that I've looked at already, there's some great schemes, some really good ideas. And it's going to be a fantastic project, but the challenge at the moment is that I've got a lot of huge electronic files, small electronic files, hard copy of certain things, and so I've just got to work through that and find the best way to move that forward. But there's a bit of good news, and that's going to be quite an exciting project to do. The last one there is the wildlife and environment appendix, which is essentially unchanged from last time, which sits there for information about the things that we're doing. That will be updated as things change, but it's been pretty quiet for obvious reasons. I don't know if anyone's got any questions on any.
Thank you, Kevin. Councillor Heap, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yes. On the allotments, I can't remember. Did we get the new locks, or is that still outstanding?
It's outstanding. We've the funding for it was agreed, which is brilliant. So I'm making arrangements for it. I'm trying to get a second quote, but it's within budget. And the key thing pardon the pun, to do with that, we'll be distributing the keys, which we're working out.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously that's 300 odd tenants we need to contact and arrange for how we're going to do that. There's no panic or rush to it particularly in terms of doing that. We'll wait until all tenants have got their key and are aware of the project before we change anything. So we won't just go and change the locks. So yeah, that's in hand. That'll make a big difference. Yeah.
On the maintenance depot, I know we did electrical survey at Woodford Park, I think in late 2019.
Yeah.
Is there any thought to doing something like that for the depot?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the leisure centre is an issue all in itself, and that will be coming back to the committee for information. That is a bigger project because it needs rewiring. It's a big job,
Right.
and an expensive one. This is more urgent in that we've got a failure there, and I think what we wanted to do was, and will make a big difference, is avoiding it coming from the leisure centre, so that power feed will be entirely separate, and reduces any issues of trying to overburden the leisure centre by putting a new supply from there in the way that the old one was. So we've separated the two. It will mean less burden on both, and yeah, the leisure centre project will come back as a future project.
And on the Woodford Park play area, I remember a year ago we were talking about accessibility play equipment. What's happened with that? Is that integral to this plan for the Woodford Park play area? Consider accessibility.
Absolutely, yeah. The tender was very steered towards that, and that was a very high priority in the tender documents. It's also in the scoring mechanism that we've got is a highly weighted criteria, and myself and the maintenance manager met with every contractor and walked the site and had a good conversation with them all about that and about the importance of that, and we'll see how that's come through in the designs. But yeah,
thank you.
Councillor Dole, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Kevin, I only mention it because I've noticed it, and you're probably aware, but you've still got quite a significant rat problem down at the pond.
Yeah.
You are aware of it?
Yeah, I am. We have got bait boxes down there. We do try and keep on top of it. I have to say, probably the last 2 years has been more problematic. We had a bad spell about 8 years ago. It was really bad, and I think it was to do with weather and other things, and it did sort of quieten down a bit, so to speak. The last couple of years have been quite bad. We disturbed a lot of them, I think, doing the work around the lake, which was perhaps to be expected for that shorter period of time.
It might be helpful if we stop people feeding the ducks with bread.
Yeah, we're trying to. We've got some more signage still to go up in that regard, and we do try and encourage them not to, and whatever else they're feeding them as well, because actually the other things that are better for ducks are also quite tasty for rats. So even if you've got cracked corn, all those things, if you chuck it on the ground or sprinkle it on the banks, then it is not helpful. So yeah, we can do a bit more with signage and getting a message out again to people. So yeah.
Just a second one was, you may have said it and I missed it, the Woodley Town Centre garden. What's happening there?
Yep. Sorry, I can just say yes. The resolution from previous leisure services meeting agreed the planting criteria for it. So the grounds team are designing that. What I'm trying to do at the moment to move it forward before anything gets planted is get some tree works carried out by Wokingham Borough Council. So I'm talking to them about that. That hasn't happened yet. So that'll be the next bit, and then the planting plan will start to happen.
Okay. Thanks.
Right, thank you. Councillor Al-Sanjari, you have a question, I believe.
Thank you. Following on from Councillor Heap's question, I wanted to ask about the accessibility. I raised that as well as other councillors, I think, quite early on about the accessibility of the play area. How much involvement will there be from councillors, from officers and sort of independent groups in particular, ones that advocate for disabled children, with regards to how suitable those things are? How will we decide who to give the contract to? Is there going to be any kind of consultation or open forum, or even if it's just sort of online where we can look at plans and designs and feed into it? Thank you.
Yeah, all of those things. I'm working on it, and it's been slightly frustrated by obviously the situation we're in. Normally we'd be out there with the gazebo up and talking to people in the town centre and in the park. and doing it perhaps an old-fashioned way, but we used to catch a lot of people that way and have good conversations with them, which we can't do at the moment. But basically, I'm keen to involve everybody and anybody in that consultation, because that's all good, good feedback. And what we're not doing, and what we were clear with the contractors tendering, is we're not just, we're not just going to pick one and go with it. There's going to be ongoing conversations, and if we've got, some clear front runners, so to speak, in terms of design, people who've really grasped the brief and have, have done well with that. If there's other things we would like to see in that, we'll talk to them about it. We will move it forward in that way before any decision is made. So I haven't got the detail of that yet, and I'm interested to get some more feedback from this committee. And I think the first thing I need to do is try and get some of this information out to you guys in a format that's helpful for you to be able to see it and get some ideas and see the sort of things we're looking at.
Please, that would be great as well. I think something that we can help with as well is to get it out there, to ask people to contribute to the plans, the ideas, give any kind of feedback. So any kind of public engagement drives, we can definitely help with that. But I think we need to have something to go back
exactly.
And tell them.
That's my challenge at the moment, is getting everything into a similar formats. And with hindsight, which is always helpful, I probably could have specified more of that in the tender in terms of how I wanted submissions to be presented. And hindsight's great for that, but so I've got a whole range of things, ranging from some submissions are just in large boxes of paper, and some of it's in electronic format. So I'm just sifting through, but as soon as I can, I'll get something out to members, and then move on from there. And it needs to be a really inclusive consultation exercise, because it's a big project. It's the biggest project of this type that we've done and are likely to do. And
I think it's brilliant, and I'm really glad to hear that it's kind of being taken really seriously in terms of inclusivity. Just lost my train. Oh, that's it. If you've got a timeline where you talked about hindsight, I think it's not irretrievable. You can still moving forward add on things that weren't obvious at the beginning. Do we have any kind of timeline pressures, or do we have a vision of when this needs to be off the ground, like when work starts? Is there kind of a fund that we've got to spend the money by, or anything like that? Do you know what I'm getting at?
I do. Yeah, there's no set deadline in terms of spending the money. It was Section 106 allocation from Woking Borough Council, and as long as we've done what we've been doing, which is keeping them informed of where we are with the project, and that it is developing. There's no date by which that has to be spent. We were anticipating that we would go through this process with a view to hopefully having it constructed by summer of this year, which would be amazing if we can keep to that timeline. I don't know how that's going to go. We do need to get the consultation bit right, and also there's likely to be some effect on contractors and things as well at the moment, although those businesses are going ahead and they are able to function. I think everyone's being affected in terms of just numbers, staff numbers, etc. So we'll work to that, and that would be fantastic if we can do that. If we can't, it's not the end of the world. There's no pressure on it in that sense, so we've got some freedoms there just to make sure we get it right.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. We look forward to your information in due course. Keith Baker, you got your hand up.
Bill's been waiting for a very long time. He had his hand up first, so I'll defer to Bill first and then come in after him.
I can't see anyone's hands anymore.
I'm so sorry. You've got
That's very kind of you.
Background there, and your hand is merging exactly into that yellow background.
That's the colour of my hand. Okay, thank you very much. Just a question on Kevin, on the maintenance depot. Obviously, the ground staff and the maintenance staff are still working. Is there a temporary electricity supply in them for them to carry on?
What we've done is they've been able to use the Oakwood Centre staff room area if they need to use that for anything. They have got a small generator down there for if they're having to work or do anything particularly in the yard. It's not ideal, and it does need sorting out, and that they've been very good about it. In some ways, it's been helpful that it's the winter season. The days are shorter, and there's not so much machinery work on the ground. There's no mowing and things like that happening. So they've at least got some basic facilities, but yeah, it's not great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. Maybe we could train the rats to work a treadmill and generate energy that way.
I'll have a chat with them. Yeah.
Couple things actually. I'm assuming that we can mix and match ideas from these 8 suppliers, in a similar way we did at the smaller area of play area in the centre. So that was one thing. The other thing I was going to say is David Provins, from our good friend from Friends of Woodford Park, is actually on this meeting. So,
oh yes, he is. Yeah,
and thank you, David, for everything you've done. So, can we do a mix and match?
Yes, we can. There's probably one of the companies that would be more difficult with, and that's purely because they are a company that deal entirely in natural product. So they do very bespoke timber designs. So some of their equipment is not as standard, so to speak, as some of the others. So perhaps harder to mix and match. So that was an interesting one actually, because I think it will give us a really different sort of vibe to some of the other ones. But a lot of the companies are able to provide something that fits. They've got very similar products. They can also, source a product from another supplier if it's something we particularly want to do. So yeah.
Okay. The other thing I just wanted to say generally to all of us, if you've got any contacts in specialist organisations for children with disabilities, etc., can they feed that into Kevin? So, for instance, from my perspective, you ought to contact Addington School.
Yeah.
Obviously, because that's a school full of people who would be tailor-made for these sorts of facilities. But if any of us know of any other organisations within the Reading area, Greater Reading area, please feed in a contact name or the organisation name to Kevin, so he can engage them in the consultation directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Councillor Smith. Councillor Smith, you're on mute.
Sorry, just to say actually that the busiest time for any sort of contractual works during the course of the year are the school summer holidays. So contractors are generally flat out with other projects during that time. Every year I've ever worked locally in this area, awarding projects and delivering them, it's always been a real struggle to get contractors to deliver anything during those times. So, if we're able to avoid that, I have no doubt we'll be able to leverage that a little bit with price, hopefully maintaining quality, of course. But just a little comment about what the local conditions are generally doing during those times. So I just thought I'd add that in there, Kevin.
Yes, thank you.
If you ever want me to, I've spent 30 years in corporate procurement and commercial. If you ever want me to have a quick look at something and then provide some feedback, I'm very happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for that report. I think we've all noted that, and there's no more hands up. So we move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is the charges for 21-22 on page 9 of your agenda. Deborah. Deborah, you're still on mute, I'm afraid.
I'm muting myself. Right, thank you. This is a fairly short report. Income levels, as you know, have been low this year. And the proposal is that because of the impact at the moment, the charges and the costs that we charge for our facilities should stay at the same levels as last year. And in the accompanying budget appendix, you've got the proposed charges on page 1 for Woodford Park Leisure Centre for the room hire, page 2 for indoor sports at Woodford Park Leisure Centre, page 3 outdoor sports at Woodford Park, and also the halls, playgroups and memorial ground. So the proposal is that we maintain the charges at the amount they would have been this year.
Did anyone want to ask a question on that, or can we move to a vote recommending the charges as set out in the budget? Right. No questions, so we'll move to a vote, please, if we may. Can all those in favour please raise their hand? Do we have, if you got that, Linda?
Yeah, that's 6.
Yeah. Do we have anyone voting against?
None against.
No. And any abstentions? We have one abstention there. Two abstentions.
2 abstentions.
Right. Thank you.
And one person hasn't voted, but she's just abstained. Councillor Al-Sanjari, I think, has just abstained.
Abstained. Is that correct, Councillor
Yeah.
Sanjari? Yep.
Is that
Thank
confirmed
you.
as an abstention from Councillor Al-Sanjari?
I can't hear you, Councillor
Yes.
Sanjari.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's 3 abstentions then, thank you.
Right. Then we'll move on to item 10, please, the revised estimates for 2021, which are on page 10 of your agenda. Again, Deborah, please.
Yeah, this report refers to the revised estimates, and you'll see from page 5, there's a column that has revised estimates 2020 to 21 on them. And this relates to those. And if I tell you that the largest impact on leisure services, which won't surprise you, has been the pandemic, we're anticipating income of about 27% of the original amount that we'd budgeted for in the Leisure Services Committee, which was just under £500,000. And expenditure is likely to be about 87% of the original estimate, which was £677,000. It looks like the total budget expenditure for 2021 will decrease by about £88,000 overall. We've made savings, as I mentioned earlier, on utilities, heating, lighting in all buildings and facilities. We've spent less on consumables for washrooms because obviously people have been using our facilities. We've got much lower expenditure on stationery and other items that we didn't need to use. And events such as the Carnival and Citizens Awards didn't take place. In terms of income, I've told you about the cleaning contract at Woodford Park Leisure Centre that we've renegotiated. In terms of income, the revised income estimates are likely to be about 362,000 lower than the original budget for the year. Lockdowns and guidance on the use of community halls have significantly affected income and reduced it. And Woodford Park Leisure Centre, as Ed mentioned earlier, has been affected by the 3 lockdowns. We're estimating that the net revised estimate is anticipated to be about 274,000 over the original budget figure for the 2021 year. And also, I just want to say something about the furlough, the job retention scheme. We're estimating that the total income for the year from that is likely to be about £186,000. It's not included in the leisure services figures, although you've got them when I provided the budgetary control. They will be on the precept sheet of the papers that will go to Strategy and Resources Committee next week. So you'll be able to see them, and it's highlighted in red. And that amount is, as I said, £186,000. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions about that item.
Thank you for that, Deborah. Councillor Heap, you put your hand up.
Thank you. I mean, the big ticket items, really, the income we're expecting from Woodford Park Leisure Centre, about 74% of the total, isn't it?
Yeah.
Presumably, you made use of the data we've had from this year to the effect of various levels of lockdown in order to calculate next year.
I have.
But what assumptions in terms of the national? Are you thinking the national lockdown goes on to the end of March?
Yes.
Then we're in tier 3 till June, and then what are the assumptions built in?
The assumption built in is that probably we're not going to get any more income for the rest of this year. We've got a little bit to come from blood donors, for example. I don't think we'll be opening Coronation or Chapel Hall, and Ed and I don't think that it will be very likely that the leisure centre will open before the end of March.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the second part? And yes, so in looking at I mean, I could talk about next year's figures in the next report if you want, but yes, I'm looking at us not coming out of it in any way that will mean people will come and use the Coronation Hall, Oakwood Centre, Woodford Park Leisure Centre to some extent with the bookings of the hall, hall hire and Coronation Hall. I'm not thinking that people are going to be coming and doing anything, sitting next to other people in a room for another 6 months at least after, so probably not till autumn and possibly not then. And that's been my assumption.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but I just
Who does?
I've really erred on the side of caution. I think we probably will get more income next year than I've put in, but I really can't tell you where from, because it will depend on all sorts of things about when people return and what they do.
Yeah, quite understand.
Right, thank you, Alex. I see no one else has their hand up, so perhaps please we can move to the recommendation of the revised budget estimates for 20 to 21 as set out in the budget appendix be approved. So could I ask people to vote in favour?
That's 7 for, oh, hang on, we've gone up to 8 now. That's 8 for.
Okay. Right. Can I ask people who are against?
Is Councillor Heap voting against, or has he forgotten to put his hand down?
I forgot to put my hand. Sorry, I thought I had put my hand down. Sorry.
Okay, so there's nobody voting against.
So have we got any abstentions, please?
One abstention.
One abstention. Councillor Sanjari, I don't think I've
she did
seen
vote.
you vote.
Yes, she did vote.
You did.
It went up late, but yeah.
All right, thank you. Right, so moving on to item 11, which are the budget estimates for 21-22. Again, Deborah, please, if you would.
Yeah, just
go on. That's on page 11.
So, as I've said, under the paragraph headed information, you can see that I think that for a significant part of the year, use of the council's sports and community facilities will be limited because of coronavirus for all sorts of reasons, about perhaps people just not wanting to be near people again. I don't know. In terms of net expenditure, we think we're going to have to spend another 217,000 over the original estimate for 2021. And a decrease of 56,000 on the revised budget estimate of 454,000 pounds. In terms of expenditure, we anticipate, well, I'm anticipating in the figures I've provided, that the cost of delivering leisure services will increase by about £34,000 over the revised estimates for this year. And those estimates will include funding for wildflowers. It's only £700, but it will make Woodford Park look nice. And we will have the staff to do it this year. We didn't last year. Lower staff costs at Woodford Park Leisure Centre to run courses and classes. An increase in the cost of the service level agreement to support young people in Woodley, a decrease in the contract cleaning costs at Woodford Park Leisure Centre that I've mentioned before. There's no increase in business rates, I understand, from the government's decision was to keep them at the same rate this year, the next year as they were this year, and there'll be no staff pay award in 21-22. We're planning for an increase in income of £90,000 over the 2021 revised estimate. So I am expecting there to be more income coming in, but I recognise that it's not a lot. I think that at Woodford Park, we've set income estimates at Coronation Hall and Chapel Hall quite prudently, as I said before, because I think people will need to feel safe using the halls, and we have allocated funds for the carnival should it go ahead and for fairs. We've also estimated that allotment income will increase by just over £300, and income from the public toilet I think is going to be about £500 if it keeps up the way it's going now. So I mean that's my best plan, as it were, for income and expenditure. So you'll see in some of the figures that I've dropped perhaps the costs of utilities. And I think that the reason I've done that is that I think if we get more people coming and using the facilities and it costs a bit more, we'll have some income to offset that. So I think that was the right way to approach it, but we'll see. We'll see. It's really been a very difficult budget to put together.
Well, thank you, Deborah, for that. I'm glad you're the one that's had to prepare that budget. It must have been very difficult. But have we any questions people want to ask Deborah on the budget estimates? No? Then I will put the motion that the members recommend the budget estimates for 21-22 as set out in the budget appendix. Could I see hands, please, for all those voting in favour?
Okay, that's 6.
Okay. Everyone can lower their hands. And are there anyone against that motion? No.
None, no.
Any abstentions, please?
3.
3. Okay, thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 12, which is future agenda items. Does anyone have any items they wish to be added in the future? Councillor Swaddle. You're muted.
Apologies, I didn't mean to have my hand up.
Does anyone, Councillor Heap?
I just wonder whether we should have something in for how we can contribute to the climate change policy that this council holds, or at least have officers give us an update on what this particular committee is doing to contribute to that.
Anyone else comments on that? I mean, personally, I think all the time we are very much aware of climate change. Alex, I don't see any objection myself to having an update at the next meeting.
Can I just ask Chairman a clarity from Town Clerk? There is a climate emergency action group. It's only 3 people, but that's to keep it nimble. Who, I'm just racking my brain to see which is the standing committee that reports into.
It's strategy and resources.
So, Councillor Heap, there is already a mechanism to go that. I'm just concerned of officers' time doing the same thing in multiple meetings. But,
well, I mean, this committee has specific duties to perform, you know, separate from strategy and resources. And I would have thought every part of this council should be doing their bit to achieve our goal, which is quite an onerous one to try and achieve. And I would have thought this committee, I mean, we can, you know, grow trees, we can do various things. You know, it doesn't have to be a big issue, but I think every committee has to contribute to that.
I don't have a problem with it coming to here, but then it also goes to planning. And my issue, but it's not for me, right, is do our officers here have the bandwidth to repeat the same messages or whatever? We all have a duty to feed into that work anyway, but it's really down if Kevin thinks he can find the time to report into this committee, as well as Planning and Community Services Committee, as well as full council, then I'm fine with it. But I'm just concerned about the pressure on our Deputy Town Clerk in particular, who's the owner of the climate emergency plan. That's all, Councillor Heap.
I mean, I am aware, Councillor Heap, that the grounds people are doing as much as they can with regards to the trees. But I wouldn't myself have any objection to a simple report for noting, just to show an update on the climate change. Deborah.
I was just thinking that perhaps one way to do that would be if Kevin put something in his report like he did for the parks, and Kevin, would that be a way of doing that?
I would be quite happy with that. Yeah,
I was just going to say the same thing.
All right. Okay.
What I could do, if it's helpful, if I put an update on where we are, a little bit on how we got, without regurgitating the whole thing, but it might offer an opportunity for members to forward any thoughts or ideas to me anyway, and I can sort of harvest that information and put that into the pot as we go forwards. I think that would be a good way to do it, and then all members can contribute and also get that information back on where we are, if that's all right.
Thank you, Kevin. Councillor Al-Sanjari, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just to support Councillor Heap's comments, really. If it's the case that it's the same thing that's been duplicated across the other committees or groups, then having it reproduced is no effort at all, really. But the useful element of having it come to this meeting is that so that we can ask questions and engage with it in a way that we wouldn't in other committees. Thank you. So I'm glad that that's happening now.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any other comments they wanted? Councillor,
I think you're missing my hand again, are you?
Oh, Bill. Yeah, I am. I'm sorry. Is that yellow background?
Limelight, come on.
I'm not. I changed parties, shall I? just to ask the question that in our next meeting, is there any way that the officers could sort of get a feel of how our past hirers are situated? The worry is that a number of our past hirers, especially some of the charities, may not still be there. And while we're setting budgets with the hope that we're going to have this money, it might be an idea if we could gauge some idea of what the situation is, whether they're still operating, whether they're still likely to be meeting. A number of them meet virtually now, and that might be a way that they want to continue.
Yeah.
So it's something we could look into.
Yeah, I think there's some work to be done. I mean, there's some people that we know probably will not come back to us again just because actually it works for them to do it on Zoom for the time being.
Yeah.
So,
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to really support Kevin's comments and what he said about adding it into the report. I think that's a great idea. And I'd like to support Councillor Alison Jari in that respect as well, actually. I think it's good to have a good mention on climate change in our reports, in what we do, so we can at least at this committee take some time to reflect on what's been going on and maybe make some contribution if we're able to. So I'd like to support that as well.
Thank you. Councillor Sanjari, you have your hand up again. Councillor Sanjari, you're mute.
Sorry, no, it was just from before. I'm trying to bring it down, but it's stuck. Okay. There we go.
Right, thank you. Right, okay, then we'll move on to item 13, publicity and website. Has anyone got any items that they feel we ought to publicise or place on the website?
Can I?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, so just because the raise hand and lower hand is glitching for me. Sorry. Yeah, just in light of the football, the Woodley United Football Club, perhaps we can have a list, have a feature on women and girls football to publicise that on our website or any newsletters, just to get the word out there.
I think, Deborah?
I was just going to say, I'll talk to Anushka about perhaps getting her to contact Mark Rosier and see if we can get some pictures or some information. We have frequently put the footballers in the paper, including women footballers, but we can do it again. It's fine.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Right, well, we'll move on to the last item of the evening, item 14. To note the minutes of the urgency committee meeting held on the 17th of November. These minutes have already been provided in the full council agenda of the 8th of December, and it's really a matter of us noting those minutes. Councillor Heap
raised his hand. Councillor Heap has raised his hand.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate these minutes of what's happened in the urgency committee, but I am still very concerned that we are not sending out agendas in the normal way, and that 2 members of this council do not receive the agendas. I cannot understand why this is the case. Clearly, it's quite practical to send all councillors the agendas. This current kind of ad hoc method by which the leaders send them out to their members excludes 2 members of the council. And I'm going to continue to make this point until this is put right. Thank you.
Councillor Baker, as leader of the council, did you want to respond to that comment?
Only in I was just trying to look it up. I believe the mechanism is defined in standing orders. I may be wrong, but I believe it is in standing orders. If it isn't, it's custom and practice for the last 40 years. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's either custom and practice or it actually is in. I don't know. Deborah, can you confirm? I'm sure I've read something in here about agendas for subcommittees, working parties, etc. Aren't sent out to all members.
What we do with subcommittees is the members of the parent committee get copies of what's been sent out, and effectively that is the personnel subcommittee, and those items are confidential to the members of the strategy and resources committee and obviously the personnel subcommittee. In terms of working parties, it is the practice to send round notice of the meeting if you're having a working party, or what else do we have? No, mostly working parties, or the catering partnership, or community youth partnership. So we would send those to all councillors.
Well, I can't see why we can't send these out in the normal way. I cannot see how two members of this council can do their job properly if they don't get the agendas. They could contribute, obviously by email, not being able to attend because none of us can, but they could contribute. This urgency committee is discussing vital import to this council. It affects all councillors and it affects all residents, and I cannot see any good reason why this simply can't be sent out to every member of this council.
Can I repeat what I said a long time ago when we've had our first urgency meeting where this was raised? Is the best way to cover this is to formally request a change in the standing orders, or from either silent, because you know what you're suggesting, it's silent about that, from silent to specifically say all councillors will receive the agendas and the minutes. All right, I asked for that 4 months ago. I suggested it to your leader. I've suggested it here several times on various meetings. I'm suggesting it again. You know, as you say, it doesn't take very long, does it, to send an email. In your case, you're talking about the agenda. In my case, it's talking about a formal request to change the standing orders to specifically state that. And then we'll all be absolutely crystal clear where we are in there. And I'm hoping you, Councillor Heap, will do that, you know, and I will, every time, if you don't do it, every time you raise it, I'm going to ask you to do it. So, and then we'll have a standing orders regulation meeting to look at that.
I will certainly consider that, but I think this could have been done by the ruling group a long time ago.
It's our standing orders do not allow that. If you read your standing orders,
you could have brought this forward at any council meeting.
Sorry, Councillor Heap, I'm speaking. You cannot unilaterally decide as a ruling administration to change standing orders. It's got to go through the process.
Then you could have put it through the process yourself.
So could you. I'm sorry, Councillor Heap. So could you.
Okay.
But let's move on.
Councillor Sanjari, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. It's a point worth noting time and time again. It just seems massively undemocratic, untransparent, and playing politics at a time of it literally called urgency committee for that reason. The exclusion of elected representatives makes no sense. There's no good, if anyone can give me a good reason why that happens. And Councillor Baker, you talk about changing, you know, what the powers the ruling group has. As we have seen time and time again, the Conservatives who have the majority just block vote against things, even if they are very common sense approach to things. So how can we guarantee? How can we guarantee
this meeting?
How can we guarantee?
We have already covered this point, and we're not going on.
Why? Hang on. Why am I not allowed to speak at this point?
Councillor Heap,
can I speak to the town clerk? Is that true that I'm not allowed to speak and finish my point?
Very, very strongly.
And I'm allowed to make the same point as well.
You are, and you've made your point.
And I should be allowed the same time as everyone else to make the point.
over
Town
something
clerk,
that's
how much
already
time am
been
I entitled
answered.
to speak on an issue or to ask a
As
question
much
or to raise
time
a
as
point?
the chairman of the committee dictates.
Is that the
Now,
case, please?
Councillor
Can you check that,
Sanjari,
please? Point of order. Can I please ask the town clerk if that's the case, that it's up to the chairman how long I'm allowed?
That is not an official point of order, Councillor Al-Sanjari. A point of order is to explain where the committee is not obeying standing orders.
And I'm asking if that's the standing order, that the chairman decides how long I get to speak.
Councillor Sanjari, let me make this quite plain. We have already discussed this position. Councillor Heap made the point very adequately. Councillor Baker has responded on behalf of the ruling party. We all know what now needs to be done. We have been trying or discussing amendments to the standard procedures for a little while. Nothing's been done about it. Put in a request and we will see what we can do. Okay? Councillor Dole, you wanted to say something.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to add to this meeting, and for the record, if there's ever going to be a record, that I strenuously object to the undemocratic use of this process by the ruling party. They are effectively cutting out the voice of members of this council. They are not permitting them to contribute to what the council does and how it does it. And they are effectively cutting out people who represent those of Woodley who voted for them. And I object to the way they're doing it. The urgency committee is not being used correctly, and it's being abused by the ruling party. Thank you very much.
Right, well, Councillor Doyle, you've had your opportunity to put it quite plainly. Thank you. Right, well, that concludes the meeting for this evening. I thank everyone for coming along tonight. The time is now 9:41.